Let's get things started today. My name is David Tolkien. I am the Director of Business Development here at Shop-Ware. I am very excited to be presenting and sort of facilitating this month's Bosch user group called Switching Gears to Shop-Ware, where we're going to hear from two shop owners that have transitioned their shops from RO Rider over to Shop-Ware, in hopes that some shops that are on the fence or having issues or have actually made this transition, but still have questions, that will be able to help them out and make their lives a little bit easier. So before we get started, just a couple of housekeeping issues. If you have any questions, feel free to put them in the chat below and we will get to them. If you'd like to speak, I will send you a Shop-Ware t-shirt. We definitely encourage active participation. So if you have something to say, you can use the raise your hand button at the bottom of your screen or just chat me and I will unmute you so you can hop in and talk. This will be recorded. And if you want a copy of it, you can just shoot me an email and let me know. I've got two great shop owners, participants here today. First, we have Joseph Renter. Joseph was born in Arizona, raised in Nebraska, and moved to Georgia in '96. He went to the University of Nebraska, and as he told me, he moved to Georgia I think in '96 to record a record album, and just didn't leave. So that's where he finds himself today. He is a musician and a European automotive enthusiast. On the automotive side of things, he managed a Napa store for 5 years. He worked 15 years as a Volkswagen as a parts manager, service manager, and fix op director. He's also managed 2 different Christian Brothers stores, and he started Auto House Social in the late 2018. That's where he is right now. He's been in this business for 25 years. Joseph, really glad to have you here as well. Thank you.
Thank you.
Mike Bergeron is joining us today as well. And he's been in the industry for 30 years, started, I think where a lot of people do, as a parts counter person, and then sort of moved into the service side of things from there. He worked a short stint as a salesperson. He's done parts and service management now for over 20 years. And he's worked for AutoWorks of Maine for 6 years, which is, I think, his first time he said at an independent repair shop. And he told me he's just really fallen in love with it and really enjoys it. He was born and raised in Maine, where he now lives with his wife and his daughter. And interesting facts, he speaks fluent Portuguese, is an Excel nerd, which I should probably hit you up for, because I always have lots of Excel things I need to deal with. So
everybody always does.
They do. So again, today we're going to be talking about RO Rider and transitioning shops off of RO Rider onto Shop-Ware. And it's really just going to be an open forum where I'm going to be just sort of asking questions that we've gathered from various users about what it's been like for them. So without further ado, we'll get into a couple of just the ones that came in. One question that has come up, guys, from shops that are looking to transition off is, how do you handle menu jobs? And so, Joseph, do you want to take that first one?
Yeah, so the can jobs and previous repairs, I can't remember the wording of the tab below there.
Past recommendations.
Past recommendations. So it makes me frustrated, because I've been doing this so long and I pride myself on being able to write a good ticket very efficiently. And the kid that I hired to work alongside me with this system, like, it's just super fast. Like, it's all already saved in the system. After a month of working on, all of these German and British cars, basically every service that we are going to do from here on out is already built into the system. So it's super, super fast to bring it up and then make slight adjustments, as opposed to building a line after line after line. So we use those 2 functions, the can jobs and the previous recommendations, nonstop all day, and it's super easy.
Anything to add to that, Mike?
Absolutely. I mean, that's the caveat, I guess, of this system, is that you can just build an estimate very quickly, and you don't have to remember, that customer from 2 years ago that you did the same job. You can just rifle in anything in the search bar, a part number, a name, and you can pull up an old repair that you did and add it right to the system. So it makes it really, really efficient.
And you can do that from any customer, right? It's not just the benefit.
Correct.
It's any customer that you wrote that service for. If you have that same service, you can just search any sort of key parts, things that come to your head, customer, whatever, vehicle, and kind of find that. And then just with one click, put that whole service that you did before right onto that new ticket.
Yep, absolutely. Yeah, you can type in timing 2-liter Audi and boom, it pulls up the last, 10 or 15 jobs that you've done.
Awesome. Helpful. Switching gears a little, and this has actually come up quite a bit. How do you track cores? And how does your service advisor know that the tech needs to turn in a core when the job is complete? Mike, do you want to speak to that?
So we actually, well, one, we are a WorldPack store, so we do import parts in from WorldPack. So when WorldPack has a core attached to it, it does automatically get pulled in to the system, and so it's already attached to that part and the PO. So it when you're able to to work with those, then you have them already attached to that. As far as alerting the technician or the service writer, obviously they would be able to see those things under that part. And then the nice thing too is, like, when you return that core, you can generate a return in the part system and then be able to track that and follow that and know what's out there as far as needed to be returned.
That kind of leads us into the next question, which was, how do you track returns, and what happens to a part that gets ordered incorrectly and is replaced on the RO? How do you track the parts that need to be returned?
So any of those things, you can flag them on the parts side, so that way you can either I automatically do returns through WorldPack, let's say, because it makes it easier. Even if I do Napa or anything like that, I can automatically create that return and have it right on the part screen and be able to make sure that I got the credit in, receive that credit, process that, can do all of that in the parts function, in the inventory function rather.
Awesome. Thank you. That makes sense. I guess along similar lines, sort of the other end of it, Joseph, can you talk a little bit about how you discount tickets?
We don't do a lot of discounting, but what I do like, what we can do with Shop-Ware is, when we do discount, you can separate by percentage and or dollar amount the labor and the parts. So generally parts have a lesser margin than labor. So we generally, if we're doing like, like we have certain discounts for car clubs, right? So if somebody from Four Rings Audi Club comes in, I can do their 15% off labor discount, basically just on the labor, without having to screw up my margins on parts. So it's super easy. It's all at the bottom of the screen, like where the totals are. If you're in the work mode of it, you don't have to input really anything other than 15-point enter, and it's super easy. We don't do a whole lot of that, but when we do, I appreciate how easy it is to do it on this system. Everything on this system is easy.
All right, you guys are earning your money today. Sort of on a different angle, but this is an important one, I think. And this comes up a lot when we're speaking to shops that are trying to get them, and they're saying, I bought RO Rider, right? I've invested in it. I own it. I don't have to make payments on it, right? I spent $5, $10, $15,000 on it, been paying it off for the last 5 years. Like, why would I switch to something that now I have to start paying for again? Either one of you care to speak to that?
I'll go first. The thing that it's the ability of what you can do with this compared to what you can do with RO Rider. So your return on investment for this is going to surpass whatever you spent in RO Rider. You're going to get that back straight away. So for example, if I am working late building an estimate, I can email that estimate, text that estimate to the customer. And sometimes I've left the shop at 6 o'clock at night after saying an estimate, and before I'm out of the driveway driving down the street, they're already approving that repair. And that's something that I never was able to do in RO Rider. So you're just, the ease of working with it, the quickness of working with it, you can't quantify all of the dollars that you're going to save by switching to Shop-Ware, but I can quantify time. So I had an assistant, and she basically we would do pre-writes and do this and that and inventory and having to build, the orders. I figured out that she was 3 hours a day wasted that I'd completely saved by switching to Shop-Ware. Just the ease of the system being able to generate things that way.
So now what does she do? What does she do in those 3 hours that she was wasting before?
So now she's able to do a lot more things. So she's able to attend to customers, answer the phone. And I was thinking about this morning, actually, that, what has our writer really done? It's freed up a lot of time, and we can get to a lot more volume. Where it used to take an hour to build an estimate in our writer, I'm now able to do that estimate in 7 to 8 minutes, and then I can move on to another estimate, and I can get that volume going. I can keep that technician moving. I can get those parts ordered. It helps with the efficiency of everyone in the building.
Awesome. Joe?
Yeah, I'll basically mirror what he just said. The efficiency pays for itself. I mean, the return on investment thing is out of your mind almost within the first week because of the efficiency of the system. You don't have to know how to sell anymore. Like, how much time did we used to spend on the phone talking to customers, even if you sent them an email of an estimate through our writer or whatever system other people used to use? Most of the time I send people an estimate through Shop-Ware and they've approved it before I've even had a chance to talk to them, and it pops up with an immediate email that tells me that it's been approved, it's all checked off. So the amount of time saved writing tickets, selling jobs, making phone calls, which we don't even do anymore unless somebody really wants to. The efficiency is insane. I mean, we're opening a second shop, and we're not going to add any more service advisors because two people can handle, two stores where it used to be like two people could handle one store, right? Like, you can do 4 times as much work with the system because of the efficiency that it allows you. And again, like, kind of nod back to what I said before, it almost makes me mad because I spent my entire career learning how to do this in such a way where I was successful at it. And the kid that I brought in, is using a system like, here's your pictures and your videos and your prices, and here's all this stuff. There's trust immediately built into it because it's all right in front of their face on their phone. And he's selling work like that, whereas it used to be something I had to learn how to do. And it's my career education is lost on Shop-Ware because Shop-Ware is just, it's too
You're
easy.
now obsolete. Yeah.
Yeah. It's a good thing I'm the boss, so I don't have to worry.
Yeah. But you bring up a couple of interesting points that I want to comment on. And you said in the very beginning when you started speaking that you don't have to sell anymore. And I have heard the exact same thing from other Shop-Ware users, that they don't have to sell, that they just, with Shop-Ware, are able to present the work that needs to be done in a way that is easy to understand and convincing, and that customers just click yes.
Yep. It's super fast, super easy. I can't say that often enough.
Well, I can tell you that, like, to have a customer say to you, hey, your point of sale is really awesome. Like, what system are you using? Because it was really easy, and wow, you emailed me and I could see these pictures and make notes. I mean, when people compliment you on your point of sale, that's pretty epic.
Yeah, totally.
And it happens all the time because it's super easy on their end to use it too. So it's
correct.
I mean, everything's done through our cell phones these days, and like, doesn't matter if they're working or what they're doing. I mean, it's like almost immediate response with this.
Yeah.
And the other thing too, like with COVID, we had to go to touchless. And so the system was already built for that. And so we were very able to have people drop their keys outside in our Dropbox. We could email them the estimate. We could email them the results of their look over. We could email them their, final invoice. They were able to pay because we were signed up through 360 payments for that. And we never even had to touch them at all. We never even had to see them. We got their keys back in their car and they were able to pick up without any hesitation. We didn't have to stop our business because we didn't have a method of working. And there's no way that would have happened in our writer, unfortunately.
Yeah, for sure. And the other thing that you mentioned, which relates into this, is that the phone doesn't ring. And as someone who has called into automotive repair shops for the last 10 years, trying to sell them various products, all I hear is the phone ringing, literally constantly, right? I get someone on the phone, someone else is calling. The phone is just constantly ringing. And Carolyn, our CEO, did a presentation a while back where she just said, phones are just choking your repair shop. And we have this saying and this sort of joke around the office now, which is like, you're going to sign up for Shop-Ware and then you're going to cancel your phone. And so, that is the idea of just, right, if the phone isn't ringing, how much more work you can get done. So all those, very valid and poignant points.
Especially if it's a customer that you've already got a very long standing relationship and you already have some trust or what have you. They're, in our shop, we have a lot of business people and they're in meetings all day. They don't want to be bothered by a phone call. We send them a text message, they approve what needs to be done, and we do the work. It's very straightforward.
Yeah. Awesome. I mean, that's how I want. I don't need to be bothered. um, all right, switching over to a couple of just like straight features and questions. How do you show a warranty part on a ticket in Shop-Ware? And or how do you offset the credit on a warranty part? And I think Mike said you said you wanted to handle that one.
So we created a labor, I'm trying to think of what it's called under financials. It's the um, you can have different labor rates for different things. So we have oil service at one rate, we have warranty at 0 cost. So I can associate the warranty, I can change the category of that line to a warranty job, and then I can zero out the sale price of the part, and then everything is tracked, that way. So then later on in the week, when I close my week out, I can go back and I can filter through either Excel or through the category report built into the system. I can pull up what was warranty, where it went, what happened. I can track all that stuff through the system. So basically, you just have to do your diligence to set up the system properly and have a little foresight as to what do you want to do with it. So if you have different makes that have different labor rates, we do Porsche, they may be at a different rate than your door rate. So you can set all these different categories up, and then you can you can quantify those things at the time of the write-up or later on even.
Awesome. Anything to add to that, Joseph?
Well, no, he pointed on one thing that I also really love about the system is that you can create categories that are easy to pull from, right? So not just in terms of like warranty and returns and stuff like that, but also in terms of the analytics. When you're pulling reports, if you categorize, like you said, if you have a little foresight, you categorize things according to what you're going to need at the end of the week or the end of the month or whatever. It generates reports lightning fast. I mean, I keep talking about how fast and efficient it is, and you think I work for Shop-Ware, and I don't. But it's very it's integrated very well, where you can do that kind of thing, where you can just separate things the way you need them to be and pull from the whole to get the part.
Awesome. So that kind of transitions into talking about analytics and the tools that Shop-Ware has for analytics. I don't know if you guys want to speak to how you were sort of doing analytics and running numbers before and how you're running them now. I think that would be helpful.
So I'll go first. Part of one of the complaints that Voight, the owner, has is that, in our writer, he had these pre-set up reports. And so, he got so used to it because he'd been in our writer for so long, that he just was used to, I go in here and I click this button and it spits out the report. So Shop-Ware is a little bit different in that you do have to export it, and you can export it to Excel. But where I enjoy Excel, I'm able to drill down way further, way quicker than he ever dreamed about with his old reports in our writer. So I find that I can get a lot more information. Obviously, you have to learn where it's located. So is it in the the invoice report, or is it in a detail report, wherever that report is? But once you figure out and learn that, which only takes you within a week, you're figured out where things are, then you're able to drill down into wherever you want to. And so I do my payroll every week. I pull from these reports. I'm able to find errors in parts or in other things that I need to find very quickly, whereas in our writer, it felt like it was really hard for me to find certain information. So you do have to understand how Excel works, and knowing that a little bit more will help you out in that regard. But that's my opinion of that.
So I'll mirror part of that, because what I used to do with RO Writer and RO Touch was use what I could from them and then generate my own reports on Excel sheets, and then with Google Docs, which is essentially the same thing, and you can transfer them back and forth. the Shop-Ware thing makes it easier because you can basically, as you said, export them directly into an Excel spreadsheet and then manipulate that however you want. So it's basically what I was already doing, only I'm being redundant. I'm sorry. It's more efficient because it automatically sends it to an Excel sheet. And then, as Mike said, you can kind of manipulate that to fine tune it. But essentially, I was doing the same thing with RO Writer, only it took way, way longer because I was having to create my own spreadsheets all the time.
It's helpful.
Yeah,
Thanks.
I learned how to do pivot tables simply because, you know, that's the best way to get information out of it. So you can have hundreds of lines of Excel, you create a pivot table and you're able to pull out, extrapolate the little bits of information that you might want to, you know, from that. And it works very, very well. Again, takes a few seconds to get used to it and to learn a couple of things, but once you've learned it, you know, you can do whatever you want with it.
That kind of brings us into our next question, which, you know, you just sort of touched on, which was taking the time to learn it up front. Can you guys talk about, like, what was your onboarding process like, your training process, you know, coming off of RO Writer onto Shop-Ware? What was that like? You know, how did Shop-Ware train and support you? And then how did you push that onto your staff? Joseph, you want to go first on this one?
Yeah. So always the cheerleader. I was a little nervous about it, but it was the hardest part about the transition was that we were running both Shop-Ware and Touch at the same time in order to make sure that we were keeping all of our bookkeeping properly. But we were using Shop-Ware without assistance within 2 days. I mean, it was like basically we sent the test, both myself used it, and then I sent it also to the technicians and to my service supervisor, and basically like, let's play with this for a couple days. And by the time we launched, everybody was already proficient with it. I mean, it took like maybe a full week for everybody to be completely on board and proficient with a brand new system. And then we still had to spend several more weeks using both systems to keep our accounting, you know, updated. But yeah, the transitional process was one of the, I've used ADP, I've used Reynolds and Reynolds, I've used Shop-Ware, I've used, you know, RO Touch, RO Writer. Going from RO Touch to Shop-Ware was probably the easiest and quickest transition that I've ever experienced in my life. It was very, very simple. The support team was phenomenal. Yeah, I mean, basically we called them and they would have an answer for us immediately if we had problems, which we really didn't have very many. It's super user friendly. And yeah, I mean, we created more problems for ourselves in the first month than the program did. So
I say the same thing that you experience, that basically you just have to have faith and just do it. Because if you do try to like, oh, but I want to do this still in this system, you can't. You just got to go forward and just embrace it and move forward. And that's what we did. So we started on a January 1st, and it was just when we did it. Training was great. Voight and I did a few evening training sessions, and then basically I was able to set up the system and test out things. It was very nice because we were able to build all those canned jobs that we knew we were going to use, you know, oil changes and that type of stuff. So having that prepared really did help out. And then we were easily able to jump right in and go, you know, the 1st of January. So it worked out very, very well. Again, preparation, learning for yourself. So I was like the point man to learn. So I learned how to do the technician side. I learned how to do the customer side. And then I was able to answer the questions in-house very simply. My writer is, you know, he used ADP, he's used Reynolds and Reynolds. So he was kind of quick to just boom, pick it up and be done with it. And it was no big deal whatsoever. And then you learn very quickly, oh, we need a canned job for this. Oh, we need a canned job for that. And they're very easy to set up because once you build it one time, you can save it as a canned job and then it's saved forever. And it makes it so easy to transition that way. I think the only, I'm thinking, David, that you were going to ask about back office too. I think that was something that.
Yeah, feel free to go into that. Absolutely.
So the only thing that I remember that we had just a very tiny hiccup with was Shop-Ware reports a little differently through back office. So we use back office to report to Quicken. And that was like, the second day, because of course we did everything the night, the first day, and then accounting transferred overnight. When we pulled it through back office, there were some allocations that were a little different. So one quick phone call to back office, they reallocated some things, and boom, we were right back into using Quicken. So it was very, very simple to transition that part of it as well. No extra training was needed or anything like that for that. It was just a quick phone call, and it was resolved.
That's helpful. So speaking of, you were talking about data transfer and stuff like that. So can you talk a little bit about data migration? Obviously, people are, concerned about making sure that all their previous customers and vehicles and all that sort of stuff gets transferred over to Shop-Ware accurately. I'm sure you both have experiences with that. Joe, do you want to talk about that first?
It's seamless. Like everything that we've ever done since we've opened the shop is in Shop-Ware. And you can tell when you pull up, the format is slightly different when you're pulling up something that was transferred over from RO Writer or RO Touch, but it's all there. So any history on any car of any VIN of any customer, it's all in the system still. It all transferred over. It's all easily searchable, whether you're looking by VIN or by vehicle or by customer or by phone number or whatever. Doesn't matter if the customer's ever been on Shop-Ware or not. Everything from your old system goes into the new system, and it was, like I said, seamless. There was no hiccup whatsoever with any of that.
Even even the silly notes that were in our writer, like maybe you had a customer's credit card in the notes, or that they call their car Clive or something like that. That carried over too, because it was in the notes section as well. So it was kind of nice to have those things in there. The only thing that we noticed that didn't pass over was if you saved estimates in RO Writer, it didn't pull over the estimates. So the only thing that I go back into my old system and look for is once in a while there's a car that hasn't been here in 5 years, and there was an old estimate for something, and so we dig those up. So old estimates didn't pull over, only invoices pulled over, which is fine, because again, it's probably an outdated estimate anyway, so it needs to be regenerated anyways. The only thing that I did have a little bit of a hiccup with was, and maybe my store's a little bit unique because we do carry a lot of inventory. So I have about 150,000 of active inventory that we keep and we reorder on a regular basis. We're, a little bit away from a mini dealer, so I stock a lot of mini parts and such. And so I have, we have mins and max set up, and that got a little bit jumbled when it came over from RO Writer. Anything that we had as a 0 minimum in RO Writer, we had to go in and correct in Shop-Ware to make it a 1 as the minimum, just because they report things a little bit differently in how they create that inventory. But that was the only thing that I noticed was a hiccup. We noticed it right away, ran a report, and went in and corrected those things. But the nice thing is that Shop-Ware in the inventory module makes it very easy to go in and correct quantities and do physical inventory, all that type of stuff. It's very simple. It's right there in front of you, so we were able to correct it very quickly.
Awesome. Very helpful. Let's see, what else do we have here? What about end of day procedures? How are you guys doing end of day?
I have a short answer. So nobody uses cash anymore. We never have cash. We don't even have a cash drawer, right? We have a little bank envelope that we sometimes use. End of day is very simple. It basically run my report and go home. There's really nothing to do at the end of the day. Like maybe once every 3 months, because of input error, I have to go back in and adjust it, but it's super easy to do, even if you have to open up a ticket from 3 days ago to close it on the same day that you originally closed it and fix the problem. But now end of day for me takes 30 seconds and I go home. I don't even have an end of day anymore, which is nice.
No, it's true. Having to go through that process and all that stuff, we don't do that anymore. Again, cloud-based system, you don't have to worry about it. You can look at it any time of the day and know where you're at. My service writer, Jason, he loves, knowing where we're at for the day, where we need to be to meet our goals, and anybody can run that report and it's right there in front of you, and you can see it. And so there's really nothing to worry about. There is a nice, it's accounts receivable, so you can see who hasn't paid. So if you're waiting for an online payment that somebody hasn't paid, so you can put their keys out in their car or what have you, you can see that right up front. So yeah, end of day basically is when my accountant pulls over in the morning, the numbers from the day before. That's the end of day. It's the next day already, and it's done. You don't have to worry about it.
Well, that's great. I love when you're talking about efficiency, just removing processes that you now don't have to do anymore because technology is doing them. I think that's a big part of what Shop-Ware is about holistically, is removing unnecessary manual processes.
And if I could speak for a second on that, really, that's the other thing that I think you have to embrace with Shop-Ware. If you are, a little old school and you have a process in place for certain things, Shop-Ware is going to force a change in some of those things. And the people that I think have more of a struggle are those that try to stick to those old processes. And so you have to look at what technology you have and then adapt those processes and move forward. And that's what the push that I saw with when we adopted Shop-Ware. All of a sudden we eliminated 3 or 4 different things that we don't have to do anymore because it's already done, and it's more efficient and it's clearer and it's more defined. We don't have to pass a repair order to a technician. We don't have to put it in a slot. We don't have to receive it back from him later in the day. None of that stuff has to exist because it happens virtually and everybody can see it. It's right there. So I think that you just have to embrace it. You have to look at your processes and you just have to adapt and move forward with it. And you're going to be better for it at the end of the day.
Yeah, I think that's a really good point, Mike. And I think it kind of hits on this topic, their perspective that I have, which is, right, what Shop-Ware is not trying to do is take your existing system and just put it in the cloud, right? That's not what it does. And I think a lot of shops approach it as, well, I want to make sure I can do, right? Our goal is not to let you do everything that you were doing before the exact same way, except online, right? And I think when shops think about it that way, that's when they start looking at this feature versus that feature, and they miss sort of the holistic picture, which is, this is actually a different way of running your business, right? It's not running your business the same way you were before, just in a browser. It's running your business differently.
And definitely for, like I said, for the better. The other thing that we haven't touched on is the fact that this is a 100% cloud-based system. So on a day that I'm closed, if I have a customer that sends in an email and they had an issue or a problem, or it was something that I need to contact them because I monitor that stuff, I can pull up Shop-Ware at home on my computer. I can pull it up on my phone. I can set an appointment for that customer for the following week. I can do any of that stuff, and I can be sitting in the lounge chair on the back deck. I don't have to be in the building doing that stuff. So I'm able to monitor things. If you have to take a day off, you have to go to a doctor's appointment, you can see if that customer showed up for their appointment. You can see if we're billing out things properly. You can monitor these things from anywhere. So as an owner, this is an ideal advantage because you can travel a little bit. If you have to go someplace or at a meeting somewheres, you have access to all of your information, all the reports that you want to run, and it's on the cloud and it's there all the time.
Yeah, I think it's very important. It's definitely about quality of life. And I have spoken with lots of other shop owners that say now that they're using Shop-Ware, I'm taking 2 weeks of vacation. Or I used to just take 1 or 2 days at a time because I was afraid to get away. And now I can go away for a week and I have complete visibility into what's going on. All right, switching gears a little bit, but this is a big one. Let's talk about, obviously you're in RWriter, you're using a parts matrix. We don't typically, Shop-Ware doesn't have a traditional parts matrix. So can you guys talk a little bit about transitioning from what you were doing in terms of part markup to now how you do them in Shop-Ware and what the benefit is?
Do you want me to? I didn't know which was going to
go ahead first.
Go ahead. No, Joseph,
go ahead.
You go first.
Okay. So we generally use a percentage point well, we use a matrix, but it's basically a very simple matrix, right? And with Shop-Ware, every part that we put in 1 of 3 percentage points for it. So I don't necessarily need a system that's going to do that for me, because we use a very simple system to do that. And with parts pricing changing so frequently, we're always checking the cost of the part when we put the part into the ticket anyhow. So we're manipulating that on a part by part basis. But even though that sounds like more work, it's really not. It's 2 seconds. You know what I mean? Like, it takes longer to type the part number in than it does to adjust it. So we don't necessarily, nor have I ever used like a matrix per se. We manipulate our parts pricing and margins on a part by part basis, and it's super easy to do that because it's, you know, everything's on the screen right there in front of you, and you can change the percentage points or whatever you want to do to manipulate that within seconds for each part. So it's, again, not to be redundant, but it's very simple. So I don't know.
So we do use the optimizer that's built into Shop-Ware. So for a long time, I was stuck at like 43% parts margin, and we were trying to, you know, manipulate some things and adjust some things. And so we finally decided it's got this optimizer built in. Let's just turn it on and let it go. So from, you know, one Monday morning, I turned it on. By the end of that week, we had jumped 3 or 4 percentage points in our profit, just with letting the optimizer do what it does. So the optimizer is more than a traditional matrix. It's an intelligent matrix. And so it adjusts things over your whole selling inventory and what you're doing. And it's always adjusting for what you've done. So if you sell a bunch of dealer parts that are at a lower margin, then you can let the optimizer mark up the things that you don't sell at, you know, that are selling at that you can sell at a larger margin. So it always is adjusting. It's a more fluid system rather than just a flat straight out, this is 30%, this is 20%, this is 10%. And we've had a lot of success with doing that. What I liked about it is that I was able to turn it on. It did its thing. It repriced things. I was able to create categories. So tires are in a separate category. Oil filters are in a separate category. So I could keep my pricing consistent with that. And then over time, I've looked at it and I was able to, if I want to make the optimizer to 50% profit on parts, I can do that. If I wanted to tweak it and make it 52, 53%, then I'm able to just go in, one click, change it to 53%, and then it reprices things and does it by itself. I don't have to go in and manipulate each part. I don't have to touch anything. It does that. And as Joseph said, it's right on the screen in front of you too. So if there's a part that you see that looks a little hokey, double click on that part, it pulls up the window. You see if it's optimized price or if it's the list price. You're able to correct all that stuff right then and there on the screen. It's very simple, straightforward.
Awesome. And where are you at GP now average on a monthly basis?
So we do a lot of tires and performance parts. So we do some performance parts. And so those I end up filtering out, and I use my pivot tables in Excel to be able to filter those things out. And so I'm consistently in the 49 to 53% with my regular parts. And, you know, sometimes I look at it and I see that, wow, it's really moved this part up a little bit, which is fine, because it's helping me to get where I want to be. So if I do have to dump a turbo on a BMW that I'm only making 20% on, I'm able to absorb that, and it's actually going to spread that over all these other smaller parts that nobody's going to really notice that kind of 3 or 4% markup here and there. So it works out very well.
Awesome. Awesome. I'm glad. I think it's one of the most amazing features I think that we have, and I think it's, you know, utilizing, and it's actually patented technology. So I'm glad you're using it. I'm glad you're getting the benefit out of it. All right, so moving away from just sort of some general specifics, let's just talk about, and we can start with you again, Joseph. Like, what were your biggest concerns? Like, you know, you saw what you liked in Shop-Ware, you saw value in it, but obviously there was things that probably kept you up at night before you guys moved over. What were your biggest concerns in you know, making that transition?
I'm a victim of habit and I'm stubborn. those are my biggest. No, I mean, I was very comfortable with, RO Writer and then RO Touch. I saw how Shop-Ware, like certain aspects would be more beneficial, but I worried, I don't know, I guess anything new worries me, right? Um, but what I did like about it is, I met Carolyn and Andre and a couple of the other Shop-Ware guys before we actually launched even. And it felt more like my biggest drawback to RO Touch, RO Writer was the lack of support, right? Whenever we needed something, we had to talk to 5 people and then yell at the salesman before anything actually ever got fixed. But I can send an email or pick up the phone or whatever, and it most of the time Shop-Ware responds to an issue before I can even voice that there is an issue, which is nice. We get these little pop-up notices that they're already working on a problem. My biggest reason to leave RO Touch and RO Writer was the lack of support, and the relationship that everybody I met from Shop-Ware was just very, very, I wasn't just a number. They cared about what I was doing. They cared about my shop. They wanted to hear my ideas for how to improve it. They still do. Like I can send Andre an email with like, here's some ideas. I think this could improve some things. And they actually listen to that and implement it, which is huge because most of these places like Reynolds and ADP and even RO Writer are like, this is our program, like it or not. This is the way it is, use it or don't. But Shop-Ware is the relationship aspect is very important to me, in both what I do professionally with my customers, in-house with my staff, and then with the companies that I use, right? And Shop-Ware, that's what sold me, was meeting Carolyn, talking to Andre, and their response and the quickness of their response and the genuineness of the response that actually drew me over. So my hesitation, there wasn't a lot of hesitation, to be honest, because I was so mad at RO Writer at that point for failing me miserably that I was, it was very easy to transition over to Shop-Ware. There wasn't that much hesitation actually.
Yeah, and before I let Mike go, and I think that's important. Shop-Ware is really holistically about taking the automotive aftermarket forward, and we have employees here that's what they're about as well, myself included. We're about bettering the aftermarket, and I can flip through our customer list and I can name off 150 customers there that I've known and that I've met, and many of them I've been to their shops, and that's what we're about, right? That's very important for us, that our customers know who we are, that we know who our customers are. That we don't want our customers just to be another number. We want them to be part of the Shop-Ware family, and that's our approach to things. Obviously, we're a business just like you guys are, but we view our customers in the same way that you view your customers, and so I'm glad that gets reflected because that's very much what we're about. All right, what about you, Mike, in terms of biggest fears and worries?
So I think that for us on the front line, let's say, we were ready to get into something better. We kept looking at other products to add on to RO Writer, but it just came apparent that those things were just add-ons to RO Writer. They weren't really moving anything forward. And I think Voigt was a lot more, the owner Voigt was a lot more hesitant as far as moving forward, just because he as well is a creature of habit, and he just was used to the system. He knew where to get the information he wanted. And but what he had to realize is that he didn't use it like we do. He wasn't on it, you know, 12 hours a day. He uses it sporadically. And so for us that was on it all the time, we kept running into these, okay, I've got to print out this invoice to scan it to then email it to a customer. It just was starting to get really difficult to communicate. And our customers were progressing into a modern time. They wanted to get text messages, they wanted to get emails, and then we didn't have anything to really provide them with. And so I think that for me, it was, we wanted the solution. I had talked to Carolyn a couple of different times previous to going forward. And I was just excited to move forward with something that we were able to present a good quality product to our customers. And that's what we were able to do with switching over to Shop-Ware. So yeah.
Yeah, you just said print and scan, right? Which are two things that I think an auto shop should never have to say again. There should be no printing and no scanning.
No.
Right? Like I think we've all eliminated the faxing, and now we just have to get rid of the printing and the scanning, and then we just have to get rid of the phone, and then you're off and running. Perfect. All right, let's see. All right, let's see. Oh, auto apps. People ask about that a lot. Were you either of you using auto apps integration with Aura Rider, and now that you're on Shop-Ware, how does that work for you?
So we had signed up for auto apps. I think we had it for about a year before switching over to Shop-Ware. And I know that they were coming out with more add-ons on that. Basically, we used it for like, I would say a month and a half or so pretty actively. And then I got cold on it because I kept having to switch back to just going back into our Rider the regular way. So it never was fully integrated on our side. And so we just never, got to it. We did use it for the technicians. And so we were like, oh, okay, it's good. It's allowing the technicians to add into stories and run time on tickets and do that type of stuff. But for us out front, we just weren't using it. And so to have 3 different programs open to do what Shop-Ware is able to do in one program, it just was a no-brainer. That why are we doing this? Why are we spending money for this and that? And I think that that's the thing that I enjoy, is that I can start Shop-Ware up and I can do everything from there. Recently we signed up with Broadly to do appointment reminders. We were one of the beta testers for that, and so now I can look at my calendar in Shop-Ware and I can see who's confirmed their appointments right there. It's all integrated in. So I can see that in one resource, not having to switch into 2 or 3 different programs. And so that, I think, is what it just sold us on it. Being able to interact with the customers, being able to be efficient at writing. When I started working for Voight here in 2015, to create estimates was just ludicrous. And it was the same estimate that you built the day before on a 3 series. Here you are building, 10 lines of repairs just over and over again. And it just was wasting so much time. And it's just really crazy how now you've got the technicians that are able to take pictures and put them to a repair order. They're able to write stories on there. They're able to run time. They're able to track things, put TSBs on the ticket, being able to put any PDF that you want to on there. Customers gives you their history on their car. You can save it to their car and put it in their folder. I mean, there's just so many advantages to being able to have this cloud-based system and be able to have that all that way. And many times it's just, oh, I pulled up this TSB on my screen. I clicked a picture of it with my phone. Now it's on the RO forever. As straightforward, shared with the customer. You can be completely transparent. People can see everything that you're seeing, and you're just a better company because of that.
That's awesome. You guys are hitting all of the one-liners that I gave you in your notes. But I do want to touch on one thing that I had taken a note about and come back to. Joseph, you talked about opening another shop, not having to hire another service writer. And I talked to, a lot of shops who say, before Shop-Ware, we were 1 service advisor to 1 to 2 techs or 3 techs, or now we're moving to 1 service advisor to 4. Or I can even have 1 service advisor handle 5 techs. And that just seems like a massive. We're talking about efficiency. So I'm just curious. So you said you're going to open up another shop, and are you going to have those service writer 1 in each shop, or are they going to be in the same location and just doing it remotely?
Right. So where we're currently at will be basically the command center. At the other location, I'm going to have, I had an intern for a couple months and I just hired him as a part-time employee. And basically, he helps with some clerical stuff, some cleaning and stuff like that. But when we open, I've been grooming him on, how to properly interact with customers and blah, 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 blah. He's a really smart kid. Basically, all I'll need at the other shop is basically him to take the keys, to greet the customer, to open the ticket on his phone, which he already knows how to do. He does the walkarounds and check-ins on his cell phone in the morning for me while we're bringing cars in. So basically, that's all he has to do at the other location is just check the car in, let the technicians over there know that it's there, and then me and Tristan, my assistant here, can basically handle 2 locations from 1 location. I just realized theoretically I wouldn't even need that liaison character over there, but I feel it's in terms of customer relation, I believe that's important. But we don't need a service, so we can bring in 3 more technicians and not need another service advisor because of how much time we save. You know, again, with canned jobs and previous recommendations and just the ease of the system. I mean, everything can be done. You know, you made a comment earlier that you could actually theoretically take a vacation sometimes. And yeah, I can be at a doctor's appointment and look on my phone and see what's going on and read every ticket line by line if I wanted to. Whereas before, you know, if I took a day off, my phone would be blowing up the entire time. So the same thing goes for like a second location. We can maximize, we can double our technician load because we've minimized the amount of time that we spend writing tickets and the amount of time that we spend checking in vehicles and everything like that, because it's all done wirelessly. You know, I mean, we are essentially paperless. To your point, you take pictures of everything, and like even the alignment specs, stuff like that. Like none of it. There's no paperwork anymore. There is no receipt. Like it's a PDF. If you want to print it at home, go ahead. But yeah, I mean, it's the same thing that makes everything else easy with Shop-Ware also makes the expansion easy. The one thing that's not easy is finding good qualified technicians. So that's where my expansion, that's my only headache anymore, is that.
Yeah, I think that's around the clock too, and very prevalent. Well, we're winding down, guys. That was really helpful. I really appreciate it. The candor. And is there anything else you guys wanted to add, you know, before we sort of sign off?
I think that my advice is just embrace the change. You know, that's always been my thought with Shop-Ware, and I've received calls from other shops that were thinking about switching over, and they always want to hold on to some of the things from the past, and it's like just take the leap, just go with it, and embrace what comes. And you're going to find out that it's way easier, way simpler to, you know, all the anxiety about changing over systems, it's real, but it's not that complex. And within a couple of days, you'll be writing repair orders, you'll be receiving money, you'll be doing all the things that you were doing, and it's that much easier with a lot less headache and with a lot more, you know, a lot more happy people because you can interact with them in the proper way. That's my thoughts.
That was beautiful. I can't add to that.
And with that, no, and I guess I'll leave by saying, you know, you had mentioned that you get reviews that mention your POS system, and I think that's, you know, that's a testament to Shop-Ware. You know, and I see them, and I have clients send them to me and say, you know, it was really great taking my shop to XYZ. They were very efficient and got everything done quickly, and they have a cool little system to show me the way, and then I could pay remotely. I mean, that's a great testament. Well, I want to thank you guys. Have a wonderful 4th of July. Hopefully it doesn't get too hot by you, Mike. And
yeah. Well, at least we have the ocean to jump in.
At least you have the ocean. Absolutely. All right, guys, have a good rest of the week, a good holiday. Thanks again for your time. Everyone that joined us, if you have any follow-up questions, feel free to shoot me an email, or if you want a recording of it, let me know. Happy to help out. But everybody take care. Thank you.
All right. Thanks, David.
All right. Bye, guys.
Bye-bye.